In KSSJ, the Spiral Parade is a group with 7 members, red, green, grey, and 4 whites. Currently, only 3 characters are confirmed to be a part of this group. Red, Kibo; white, Hanekaeru; white, Boru. It is also heavily implied that grey, Nora, is a member too. This leaves 3 members, green, and 2 whites. If we assume Tokume is not in the Spiral Parade, that leaves us with 12 possible members. Ahiru, Akui, Fristl, Furi, Kyoki, Minami, Nioi, Shinju, Soka, Sprout, Toka, and Yutaka. Of these characters, there are some of which we know their color. Ahiru, light blue; Kyoki, yellow; Yutaka, orange. These are the only confirmed characters with colors, leaving us with 9 possible members. From Chapter 5, the introduction of the Spiral Parade, we know one of the whites is female. The only female characters remaining are Fristl, Furi, Minami, Shinju, and Toka. I feel like we should be able to remove Toka, and thereby Soka. There is evidence to justify this claim later. Minami should also be able to be removed from this list, as during the first Kaigi, she is unaware of the Spiral Parade. The remaining females are Fristl, Furi, and Shinju. It technically could be possible that any one of these characters is a member, but I'm fairly certain it is Furi. In Chapter 9, Furi refers to Hanekaeru as Tsubasa. This is likely a nickname, implying they are close. Furi also says, "So our plan half worked, I see." While this doesn't necessarily mean Furi is in the Spiral Parade, I'm sure it's enough reason to assume so for now. Now for the remaining characters. There are 2 remaining members of the Spiral Parade. 1 white and 1 green. Remember that Shinju and Fristl are not off the table. This leaves Akui, Fristl, Nioi, Shinju, and Sprout. Considering Sprout is Furi's sibling, and is entirely black and white in design, I believe we can say that Sprout is the 6th member and final white of the Spiral Parade. Akui, Fristl, Nioi, Shinju. We know nearly nothing about the identity of this final member, although there are plenty of hints and clues we can gather. Let's start with Shinju. Looking at her design, there is no green in sight. All other characters at least share some aspects of their color, so let's note this as evidence. While this isn't clear evidence, the Spiral Parade is shown to be more aware of how the game works, while Shinju doesn't get informed until just before the Kaigi as seen in Chapter 5. Shinju also hasn't been seen using her Seigyu, while all others have, with the exception of maybe Hanekaeru and Boru. Although Boru does know the exact name of his Seigyu, meaning he would likely be adept. Nora also says Hane was able to recreate the noise of a gunshot. For now, let's move on to Fristl. Fristl currently has no color design, so we can't tell from this. Fristl was also there for Shinju's enlightenment into the game, so it is possible she was unaware, but it is more likely it was just for Shinju. Fristl has been seen having a high control over her Seigyu in Chapter 9, being able to tell the age of objects by touching them. Sprout even comments on this as she is able to hear them speaking through their Seigyu. Although this scene likely also disproves Fristl being a member. If Fristl was already a member, Sprout should have known that Fristl was able to. A counterpoint could be that Sprout was in a box, and couldn't see Fristl. Perhaps they couldn't recognize her voice. Fristl also isn't on the best of terms with Furi, trying to kill her at the start of the game, and again in Chapter 9. For now, let's move on. The most evidence points towards Nioi or Akui. Starting with Nioi. Nioi has green eyes, and is often correlated with green. Nioi appeared at Nora's body in Chapter 4, seemingly out of nowhere. He was also the one to introduce the idea that Nora wasn't dead, and this came out to be true. His actions may also be seen as leading the group through the case. He also seemed very nonchalant about the body on the ground, as he ate his orange. Akui and Kyoki continued to banter. Nioi was just leaning up against the doorway. I don't think he really cared about the literal dead body on the floor. He took out an orange and started to eat it. When Minami calls out to Akui, Nioi is the first to appear. This doesn't really mean anything, but I'll point it out anyway. While Nioi did not know exactly, he managed to work out a lot about Nora's Seigyu. This could possibly be because he has previous experience with it. Nioi didn't know how to properly pronounce Seigyu, instead saying Segui. This could mean he isn't as experienced as he seems, although he does know the exact name being smell. This is backed up by him saying his nose hasn't been acting right since he got here in Chapter 8, after asking Shinju for a handkerchief. In the first epilogue, the most damning evidence against Nioi, it states only 3 were worthy for being a part of the Spiral Parade. Later they are questioning who they should investigate, and refer to Nioi, although they say he has already been thoroughly investigated, meaning he likely wasn't one of the worthy ones, although it is possible they changed their mind later or were mistaken and Nioi was actually worthy. Both Nioi and Akui play major roles in solving the Kaigi. Speaking of, the evidence for Akui. Akui is possibly the most green character in design. Akui also seems to be fully aware of his Seigyu, being perception, although we haven't seen him explicitly using it. Akui was also the last one to talk to Nora. What he says he said to her last could also be a bit suspicious, with him only saying he said something along the lines of, "See you later." Akui also plays a bit of the same role Nioi did, leading along the rest of the gang. Akui was the one to bring up the idea of taking off Nora's dog head, although this could indicate being on either side, leading the group, or just being curious. When Tokume recites his script in the kaigi, Akui says it's the exact same as before, meaning he was there and Nioi wasn't. Why was Nioi not there? In Nioi's first introduction, Akui says he hasn't met him yet, and introduces himself. This could mean Nioi wasn't as aware as the others, or that he was told separately like Shinju. Nioi also says he's been across the entire map, yet barely met Hane or Kibo, meaning he could be experienced, but also unaware of the spiral parade. Back to Akui, during the kaigi he seems to bring in a lot of his own ideas, ones that no one else really acknowledges. He also is the one to prove the culprits are Kibo and Hane by reading out the letter on the envelope. Why would he do this if he was on their team? It could be a strategy to deflect the blame off of himself, but more likely, he found actual evidence and wanted to share it. Akui does have some evidence that really convicts him though. In the first epilogue, they are choosing who to investigate. The three people chosen are, the kid with the wizard hat, that annoying one with the orange hair, and Mother. These people could correlate to Soka or Toka, this is why they can't be the female member, Yutaka, and someone else respectively. In Chapter 5, Kibo is tasked to investigate Yutaka. While we don't know this, it is possible Nora could be investigating Soka or Toka. If Akui really is green, that would leave him to investigate whoever Mother is. While Kibo is seen investigating Yutaka on day 2, Akui is only seen possibly investigating Mother in Chapter 2. It is very possible Akui didn't get the chance to until Mother woke up. Akui could be investigating Minami. Clearly he takes a different approach to Kibo, although neither of them really get any information themselves, only giving their own. Why Minami is Mother is for a different video. This is making a few assumptions, but it is still a point to consider. The other evidence is a bit more situational. In Chapter 3, Minami rings the bell and Akui comes running, meaning he was probably close. Likely just in the quarters. Nora is also shown to be here. We can ignore Ahiru and the ear puller being here for now. Nora said in her explanation in Chapter 8, that she did a practice run in her quarter only about an hour before she played dead. Minami later ends up in Nora's quarter, meaning it was under the same Hari. Why would Akui be down here if not to help monitor Nora as she did her final practice? Now this could just be explained as Akui being in his own quarter or something like that and coming to Minami when she calls. Both of these aren't perfectly convincing or sound, but shouldn't be ignored. Clearly both Nioi and Akui have far more evidence than both Shinju and Fristl combined. Of what we do know, who is it more likely to be? Nioi or Akui? While Nioi has more shown evidence in my opinion, Akui has a lot more possible evidence. With what we know so far, it is impossible to definitively determine who green from the spiral parade is. I believe it to be Akui, but I can understand if you think otherwise. Both have evidence and counter-evidence, but until more of the story is released, we can't know for sure. If you know anything I've missed, you can comment it and I'll make sure to pin it. Thanks for watching my first theory video, and remember, KSSJ is a story built for theories like these. It doesn't matter how accurate they are, as long as you have fun making them, we as a community can enjoy them. I'm Ice, and see you next time. Bye.